Welcome back, y'all, to another episode of Define Your Legacy. I'm your host, Theus Elijah McBee, and today we have Chelsea Stingley. She's the owner of JCD Academy, and she's an Airbnb Superhost. All right, so this is going to be an Airbnb episode. Let's get right to it. How you doing, Chelsea?
I am doing amazing. How are you?
I'm doing well. Appreciate you for joining us on the show.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So if you could just kind of, introduce yourself and tell us what it is that you do exactly.
Okay, so like it was said, I am Chelsea Stingley. I am the founder and the owner of JCD Academy, which is an academy I started from my company with my spouse called JCD Enterprises. We started hosting short-term rentals in 2019, and we have just kind of taken off from there. We do everything from management to full service hosting ourselves. We have a total of 7 units across a few different states currently. And before we started hosting, we managed for about 30 different hosts before we started hosting ourselves. So now not only are we hosting and managing, but I also teach other people how to correctly get into the Airbnb industry with full transparency of the business model to be set up for the most success possible.
Okay. So I already took note of a couple of things that you mentioned. One, it's in 7 different states, right? And then 2, the fact that you're helping other people kind of do the same. But I want to address that in a couple of minutes. But first thing first, I want to ask you, how did you get started in this business?
That's a great question. So I started a cleaning company in 2015, and in 2019, I actually started cleaning for my very first Airbnb host. And that was when I was introduced to Airbnb outside of just the consumer aspect. I was introduced to it on the business side. And then the pandemic hit and the top of 2020, and we were managing and doing a lot of cleaning and turning over for a lot of different hosts in California, where I lived at the time. And we lost a lot of my cleaning clients, but the only ones we had left were Airbnb hosts. And so I said to my spouse, I said, hey, I think this is a good industry for us to invest in. So based on everything I had already knew, we already learned about the process. We set out to get our very first listing up and live on Airbnb. And it's been up ever since then. We've learned a lot. We've grown a lot, and it's been a great journey. But that was, my introduction to the industry.
Yeah, but talk to me too, though, about that shift from being a consumer of Airbnb to now where you are now.
I always tell my anybody that I work with in my program or anybody that becomes a member of JCD Academy that it's actually a pretty easy transition when you are familiar with the product already and you know how it works, to be able to then provide that same product at the level that you would want it as the consumer. So us, having had stayed in a few Airbnbs and having Airbnb accounts and knowing how Airbnb worked, we also on the music side and entertainment side, we had hosted a few Airbnb experiences. So we were very familiar with just the Airbnb app overall. So we already knew what the consumer wanted and needed and what the overall, I guess, culture of Airbnb was. Yeah. So it was a pretty simple shift from consumer to now business, Airbnb business or short-term rental host, right? Pretty simple, actually, because you already know what you want as the consumer, and that's what you're now providing as the business.
Do you feel like it was a learn as you go kind of thing, or did you all just jump right into it?
Well, we jumped in head first. We made some very interesting mistakes in the beginning, and we're still learning. I mean, the industry is always changing. We're always learning something new. There are a few people that I look up to that are doing bigger things than we are, that I, trust their information. I know they're telling the right things. So I'm always investing into our knowledge as well, because, just because I teach people that are, the way that we've had success, we still have room to learn and grow too. So we're always, got our head in the books and on the internet, searching and surfing for new things, because the industry is always changing. There's always some new platform out there for Airbnb hosts to use or try, some new data or statistics type of platform for us to put things through. So it's always a learning process. Like we started with the cleaning and we went into the managing and now the hosting, and it's constant learning and moving in an upward phase, if that makes sense.
Yeah. But so what does it mean to you also to be a teacher as well as a student?
That's a great question. I think you cannot be a good teacher without being a good student. I'm a firm believer of that. I don't know any good teachers that I've experienced that haven't once had to be a student to get where they are. And I think it's important that, especially when you are responsible for putting out content that is, when we're talking about education and providing knowledge for people, that you make sure that your knowledge is up to date and your content is up to date. You have to learn that from somewhere, right? So I think, it's important to be educated across the board, but it's more important if you hold the responsibility of teacher and people, they trust in you for information. You almost have a responsibility to make sure you stay educated yourself.
Yeah. And I think it's dope too, because obviously you all have built your business up to what it is now, but you've also have kind of given back and provided education for those that are interested in learning about it,
Yes. I think the best teachers are those who actually have a heart for teaching. Like I don't do what I do on the academy side for the money. Obviously, I think experience and knowledge is worth money, but I don't do it so that I can make all these, millions and millions of dollars. That's why we have our businesses, right? We're, entrepreneurs for that reason. I do it because I like to see other people actually genuinely succeed. I'm very excited when people that, get through my program or get through my course, get their first units. I keep in touch with the individuals that go through my program. I'm not your average mentor, your average coach. I'm very hands-on. All of those who work with me, they have my personal number. I really take, a lot of, pride in being involved and being, serious about the success of those who are around me and that, choose to trust us with the beginning process of their business.
Right. So all of the students that you've coached and taught, what do you feel has been a common trait amongst them, the ones that have made it to a point of their life where they've now, been a little successful within the Airbnb business?
That is you're asking some really good questions.
Thank you.
No problem. I think the main, common denominator for every successful individual that's worked with me or just in this business in general,
right,
is someone who is consistent. You have to be consistent in the startup of any business, but in this industry, if you're going to do it the correct way, you have to really be willing to put in the consistent effort of, inquiring and finding where you can get this, yes to this business model. And it can be discouraging, especially in the beginning. You could get a lot of no's. You could get a lot of people who are like, no, I don't want to take part in this. I don't want anything to do with this. So it takes a lot of consistency. And the ones that have worked with me that have had success, they've just been consistent. They haven't given up. They've listened to the things that, they've been taught from me. They're serious about their background work and their homework. And they take the process just serious overall. They're, really working in the background as if they're a student in school again to really get that unit up and going.
Yeah. And that's, like you said, consistency. And that's, the majority part of life in general, business, education, all of that, just being consistent day in and day out. But talk to me too. Is it possible to be involved with Airbnb without actually owning the house itself?
Absolutely. I think, and this is another reason why I began teaching, because there's a lot of bad and misinformation out there. And you have people that understand the concept of not having to own to become a, short-term rental or an Airbnb host, but they're not going about it the right way. And there's a lot of, for better words, non-transparent
liars.
Yes, there we go. Yes,
I'll say it. I got
a lot of lying and misrepresentation of what's actually going on out there. And it's making the overall industry hard to enter into. But you absolutely can become a short-term rental, Airbnb, Verbo, whatever the case might be, host without owning. The main thing that we do is we partner with and find other homeowners, private owned buildings, privately owned apartment buildings, privately owned homes, and we pitch our business to them like we're in a sales room, like a sales meeting. Hey, not necessarily pitching a monetary gain for them, but pitching consistency, pitching the fact that we can be the best tenant that they've ever had, because we are a business, an established business that can operate and allow them to fulfill what it is that they want to fulfill as a landlord without having to have as much liability from a regular tenant, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I got you. And I mean, when we talk about Airbnb and doing it virtual, how do you find good places?
That's a good question. So when it comes down to finding good places, okay, I guess the short answer for this is you need to go where there is a need for temporary, fully furnished housing, okay? And that can be anywhere. That's not just your vacation, typical vacation, big cities. That's not your tourist attractions. It's anywhere where someone would need to leave their home and stay somewhere that has a bed, that has a kitchen, that has pots and pans, that has, something different than a hotel, right? Mm-hmm. Most of the times that's everywhere. Anywhere there is a need for travel, where there's, family gathering, there is visiting of college students, there is going to doctor's appointments, there is, where there's hospitals, there's any type of school, literally anything. There is a need for the temporary aspect of fully furnished housing. So, from the big cities on down to the smallest remote type of cities, you have to know the numbers of those cities. And there's ways that I teach where you can know, what the occupancy rate would be in an area. And if that occupancy rate is good enough for you to be profitable in that area, okay? Mm-hmm. But the short answer is you can really do this anywhere. Anywhere there is a need for individuals that need to stay somewhere that's fully furnished for a short period of time, then that's not just vacation. So you can do it anywhere. Okay. It's just about what the numbers are, what the numbers mean, and if you know how to actually read those numbers.
Yeah. That's definitely a shift into the more so real estate talk. If the numbers work, you should, run with it. But what would you say though to someone who lives in a small city or like a small town? Because obviously when you mention it, like whether it be college students or a big city or a tourist, if I'm a person who lives in a city where that's not heavily populated, then how should I, alter my approach?
This is a good question. There's a few ways you can go about it. Okay. Because I'm not from a big city. I'm from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Milwaukee is a city. It's a big city, but it's not like Chicago. It's not like Atlanta, right? So what you can do, and what I would suggest is go on Airbnb and see what's going on in your area for Airbnb. If you have other Airbnbs that are, on there, the calendars look like they're pretty booked. You may be able to actually set up an Airbnb right there in your local town and, have some success with it, right? But there have been a few people I've consulted where they're from these really small towns and we go on Airbnb together and we look and there's like 3 Airbnbs within a 50-mile radius. It's like, this may not be a good idea. But for people like that, what I would say is the next closest city with a downtown, with a college or two, a hospital or two that's in driving distance, try there. Because now you don't necessarily have to get on a flight. You can drive, right? And it's easy, it's still remote, but it's easy to manage. You don't have to necessarily drive there for every turnover. You can still set it up as if it is remote, but you don't have to fly across the country or go to the nearest huge tourist city to set up that listing.
So why are you saying colleges and hospitals? What makes those two kind of stick out?
Yes. So colleges, and this is one thing I've noticed about just cities that have downtown areas, colleges and hospitals, okay? Hospitals, especially with what has been going on with the pandemic for the last year and a half, almost 2 years, you have a lot of traveling nurses. And traveling nurses have taken to Airbnb, Verbo, different platforms to find housing options because they can't stay at home. And a lot of times they're not even local to home, right? And they get a housing allowance, okay, where their company, their job is paying for them to stay in these furnished apartments, these fully furnished listings. So if you are in an area that is close to hospitals, you can specifically target those type of guests. As well as hospitals, I'm sorry, as well as colleges, you have a lot of parents that are visiting their kids that are in college dorms. You have a lot of friends that are visiting their friends for the weekend that stay in colleges. And then you have a lot of just different transitional things that are happening around college,
I got you.
you know,
college,
that make a lot of sense. And then downtown is just downtown. That's any city that has a nice downtown area is always going to be a bet because you have all type of things to do downtown that really have nothing to do with anything large. It's just a downtown area, you know. So that's, I always look for those three things. If there's a college or two, there's a hospital or two, and a nice downtown area, and then I look at the occupancy rate and it's above a certain number, I'm like, okay, this may work. Okay.
Maybe, yeah. So like, do you just, in terms of the city, because that part is based off like establishments in any town or state, right? Colleges, hospitals. Is there like a city that you just say, you know what, I want an Airbnb here? Or is there a state that says, you know what, maybe around this time of the month, I should look into getting one out here?
So if you're asking me about like our goals as a company, because I think that's what this sounds like. So there was a list that we started, a goal list that we started when we first started doing this. And we are 85% through that goal list. So we have like 3 more cities that we really, and it's just based on places we like to travel, places that we may have family, places that we know are nice cities, just to have a place to go. Because that's the reason we created our list based off of just places we like to go so that we can have a place to stay when we're there because we travel a lot. So that was how we created our list. Okay. So it started in California where we lived at the time when we started. And then we made our way to Georgia because Atlanta was just at the peak of the Airbnb game in general. Like there was so much going on at the time, at the beginning of this year. It's kind of, I'm noticing Atlanta has its seasons now, but it was really, really high when we first got to Atlanta. And then we came to Milwaukee, which is where this duplex is, because this is my hometown. The Bucks just won. And there's a lot of stuff going on in the area that, we decided to get the unit in. So it's a perfect area, pretty much an all year round type of area, bars, walking distance, things of that nature. And then next is a couple of places in Florida because Florida is all year round. Okay. So yeah, I think you may talk to other people who have been doing this for a while, or just older people or people that do things differently than we do, where they have like a method to how they pick their locations. But I honestly believe if you really want to make a short-term rental unit work in a city, as long as it has some type of reason for people to go there, then you can make it work if the numbers make sense. That's what I believe. That's how I like to operate.
Yeah. And I'm sure, you obviously been doing it for, some time now, but what are the overall responsibilities as a host, when you're dealing with properties out of state, even if, if it's short-term rentals?
That's a good question. So the main responsibility will be the cleaning and turning over of the unit in between time. So for example, like we're actually getting ready to go to Atlanta on Thursday. We have a guest checking out downstairs on Thursday and somebody checking in the same day. So I have been here all day making sure, because I've been here for the turnovers for the last month, but this is the first time I won't be here. So I'm just making sure that everything is set up for her to be able to come in, get the cleaning done, and get, everything replenished and turned over so that the unit is ready by 3:00 for the next guest. So that's the main responsibility. But also depending on if you have this is a privately owned home. So we have an agreement with the homeowner where there's certain things we have to make sure are together. Like we have the smart locks on the front doors and on the unit doors and all these things where we manage those from our phone. We do have to make sure like that the cleaner has their eye out for any damages, because we are responsible for those things that if something happens while the guest is here. So it's really just about having a good cleaning and maintenance team on the ground if you are going to be remote, and having a good system to manage everything, through. So if go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, well, how do you find them?
When you say find them, what do you mean?
The good cleaning service on the ground.
Good question. So there is an app that I guess it's really a website, but there's an app. This is how I actually grew my business. It's called turnoverbnb.com. Okay. Now you have a lot of people that have used that and may have had other stories that they don't like about it, but it's basically a marketplace of cleaners that do Airbnb turnover cleaning in your area. Okay. They pretty much gotten to every area that you can think of that there are Airbnbs in. So if all you have to do as the host is create a profile, it's free, and you use their marketplace, and they take a couple dollars off of the payment that you're paying, that the cleaner to do the cleaning, right? So that's the first thing that I do to find cleaners. But I also get into Facebook groups. Like now, like Facebook groups weren't a big thing 2 years ago when we started, but now they kind of are. And every bigger city that has a lot of Airbnbs in it, they have big Facebook groups full of Airbnb hosts and full of Airbnb cleaners. So you can get into these groups and make a post that you're looking for a cleaner in a certain area, and you'll be able to find somebody, because you'll get like 30 people that will comment and say they're available to clean.
Yeah.
So that's another thing that you can do too. But you have to use, I guess, technology for what it is. That's the only way to be remote. You have all these apps that allow you to run things from your phone. Got all these things that are like marketplaces, or you can find like TaskRabbit, Handy, all these different things. We use all of those things when we're in a city we don't live in.
Yeah, I was gonna say too. Are there any other apps that you all use throughout the process?
Yeah, definitely Handy, TaskRabbit for sure. Like when we get our TVs mounted, like when we're staging a unit, that we get on TaskRabbit, we find someone that's good. And then normally what happens is you find them on there and you get their personal number, and now they're pretty much on your team. They like you, you like them. It's a good rapport. And now if you ever need something, you got somebody to call. You set up your next unit. You don't even got it, and it's really that first unit. That's when you're building everything up, and you use those apps one time. And I mean, in our experience, that's what's happened with us. We've used them once or twice, and then we end up kind of building a team up where now we just have people we can call that are ready and willing to work, and help us out.
Hey, building the team, I'm sure that makes your job a heck of a lot easier.
Yeah, it's important.
Yeah, but speaking of team and your responsibility, so you're a host on Airbnb, right? But now you're a super host, right? So what's required to reach that level?
Yes. So Superhost, you have to, there's 4 metrics that have to be met for us to be qualified as a Superhost. Okay. So the 4 metrics are: you have to have a 4.8 star rating or higher. Okay. So that means your guests, they give you your reviews. Those reviews have to average out to 4.8 or higher. You have to have I believe it is a 90% rate, 90% response rate or higher. So our response rate is actually 100%. It's really easy to keep it at 100. Just every time somebody writes you or sends an inquiry, you just write back right away. Put the app on your phone. It's real simple. You also have to have I want to say it's like 0.1 or less cancellation rate. So you basically can't cancel any of your confirmed reservations. And then you have to have 10 or more completed stays. So once I guess the first metric that you want to hit or focus on when you are a new host is getting those 10 completed stays right away, because without that, you can't make Superhost. Everything else will kind of fall into place. If you're doing everything correctly, you're communicating with your guests properly, you have a good turnover cleaning team, you don't cancel anything, the rest of the metrics will fall into place. But those first 10 stays are probably that's the most important.
Okay. And I mean, you reached that level of being a super host. One, congratulations, obviously.
Thanks.
But two, you're welcome. Two, that's the good part, right? But I always like to put things to perspective. What are the struggles or the biggest things that you might or the biggest no, bro, because I want to ask this question because obviously with social media, everyone always sees the screenshots, the nice pictures and all of that. So what's the roadblocks of Airbnb investing that you think people might face? And more importantly, how could they overcome them?
Yes. There's so many. And I would encourage anybody who is watching this that's interested in Airbnb, make sure you follow the right people, because I'm gonna say this first because this is kind of like a prerequisite. Those who follow me know that I post the good, the bad, and the ugly. I don't just talk about all the good stuff. Especially if you're a part of my Facebook group. I have a Facebook group and I do a lot of in the moment posting of just different scenarios and situations. Okay. So the main thing, I guess, that I would say, there's so many things. I'll give an example. This is probably most relevant to the conversation. If you are someone who is connecting with privately owned homeowners and things of that nature to get your Airbnb, right? It's important that you are reflecting everything that is agreed upon in, I guess, the conversation on your paperwork. And because what can happen is that you can have miscommunication, or like what happened to us, a lease almost had to be terminated early because we were not in agreement with what happened in the relationship with our homeowner, because they did not hold up their end of the bargain of our partnership. And if you don't properly reflect the agreement on your paper, then they can kind of do whatever they want, because they are the homeowners, they are the owners of that home, right?
Yeah.
And so for us, we did cover ourselves. We did make sure that we had our paperwork together, but still and yet they were trying to not take accountability for the things that they were responsible for. And it ended up working out in our favor because we had our paperwork together, but it was a few months of, them trying to, they cost us some money because there was a responsibility that they had for the HVAC of the home. This is the house in Georgia. It's August in Georgia, it's hot. And we had a guest check in and the air conditioner, which we found out later, the filter needed to be changed, okay? But they were not holding up their end of the bargain of changing that filter out, and had not even let us know that was something that needed to be done periodically. So nobody is, thinking about the filter, right? We just know, hey, the air conditioner is not working. So it happened a few times. They covered it up with a bandage. They went over there. I don't know what they did, but it wasn't changed the filter, okay? And so finally, a guest checked in and checked right out, and we had to refund them over $1,000 for that. And August was already really a slow month in Georgia. It was just really slow. I think that month we only had maybe 3 confirmed bookings at the time at the beginning of the month. And that's very slow, than what it normally is. And so it just put us in a position where we still are responsible to the, rent for the house for the, upcoming first. But you guys because you guys neglected to be, accountable to your part of the bargain, we lose out on money, but we're still responsible for paying you. And so we kind of challenged them. And because we had our paperwork together and they, consulted, I'm sure, an attorney or somebody to look over the lease, they told them, what they were trying to do to us and the things they were requiring from us wasn't fair to us. And it wasn't in line with what the lease said. And not even fair, but just in line with what the lease said. So I would say, number one, make sure your paperwork is together. No matter if you're working with a private owner, if you're on a corporate lease, make sure your paperwork is together. Number two, make sure that paperwork give you permission to run a short-term rental, okay? That is probably the next most important thing, because especially with those who are interested in getting corporate leases in their business name, and there's this whole facade out there about, if I get a corporate lease, I can run Airbnb. That's not true. You can have a corporate rental, but if that corporate rental doesn't, allow for your business to conduct third-party advertisement, you're still in violation of your lease. Okay. So it's important to make sure that, that paperwork says, JCD Enterprises can operate an Airbnb or can advertise this corporate rental on third-party platforms. Okay. And then number 3 is, there's so many things, but it reverts back.
You said a number, but I mean, you can keep going if you want. This is, it's good for people to hear this stuff.
Okay. Just the third thing reverts back to having a team, having that good, solid team in place, and not being afraid to fire someone and get someone else in, because your team is going to be imperative to those reviews. If you don't have someone in there that can turn the unit to the standard of what it needs to be, it's going to reflect in your reviews. And we've had it before. We've dealt with, cleaners before. And because I'm a cleaning professional, I come from the cleaning industry. I'm very, very, like to the T with my checklist and everything, and whoever we hire to help clean, because it's very important. The turnover process is it's the most important aspect of the business for success. So that's just a few things, but guests in general, I'll add this and I'll be done with this. Guests in general, you have to remember that you cannot please everyone, but if you set your business to the highest standard of hospitality, A+ hospitality, okay, you can almost guarantee that you will pretty much be able to please majority of your guests. And that means just 100% comfort, making sure that your turnover cleaning process and your turnover process is thorough, and making sure that your check-in process is simple. But that hospitality, like what we feel when we walk into a very nice 5-star hotel, you want to aim for that type of experience for your guests every time they check in.
But you know what though, when I hear guests, obviously now you all have had to deal with a variety of guests, right? I'm sure some good, some bad. But if that's the case, what made you decide to go the Airbnb and short-term rental route as opposed to rental property route?
The short answer is the return on the investment is, you get that return back way quicker. If I'm going to, let me just give you an example. Even if I am, okay, whether you arbitrage or you purchase, let's just say I purchased a property for $150,000, okay? I purchased that property, and if I am renting it out to one tenant, every month that tenant is paying me $1,000 a month, right? How long is it going to take me to make that $150,000 versus me getting a week-long stay that comes out to $1,000? And now I'm making, $4,000 or $5,000 a month, $60,000 a year. I make my return back in 2.5, 3 years. It's kind of, it's kind of a no-brainer when you look at it that way. So for us, being able to, our goal was to add another source of income that can bring, that we could get up to about $10,000 in profit per month very quickly, and be able to decide how we can do that. Because a lot of times when you're in the service industry, like I've been and my spouse has been for many years, our revenue and our profit and our income is based off of servicing other people versus setting up something that, can run on its own, that is needed and necessary. And that as long as we are, hitting certain marks, the money is being made. And then all we have to do is duplicate that over and over and over again to get to that number. So, I think for us, it was kind of a no-brainer, but we do still, we plan on putting a few investment properties in the mix and, maybe doing another duplex. but having a, more long-term stay in one of them, or a long-term tenant, or, traditional tenant in one and doing Airbnb in another. But I'm all for the short-term space because of the way that the money comes in. It just makes more sense.
Yeah, and I mean, long-term versus short-term. Obviously, there's no right or wrong answer. Just want to, hear your perspective on it, too. And obviously, there's one of those situations where you can do both. But you mentioned numbers, right? Whether it's long-term, short-term, whatever. How much money would you say is needed to really get started with Airbnb investing?
Good question. So if you are looking to arbitrage, which is what we do and what I teach, if you're, let's just say, one bedroom apartment, on average, someone who is has a good budget, you can arbitrage, for as low as $3,500, $4,000, on up to $10,000. Okay. I think a lot of times, and I'll give you that range first. Let's answer the question first. So you can get this done. Our very first loft, okay. We did our very first loft. We had some furniture of our own, and then we went out and spent maybe like $1,000 on just little staging, trinkets and things of that nature, right? We found a rental special, and we were able to move in for like $200. Okay.
Okay.
So the thing with that though is we did it for that price, $3,500, I think we spent in total. And we were only able to list that unit for 30 days or more. Okay. That's the kicker here too. There's so many different little things about this business that you have
kind
to
of probably
right?
pick them up as you go.
Right, exactly. But we were able to, after maybe a month and a half of having the listing up, we locked in like a 4-month stay that was paying us, paying the expenses, and putting a couple $100 extra in our pocket a month. Okay. And that was the goal. That was the first unit. We're like, we just want to be able to make some extra money on this unit per month. Okay. And so we made that investment back, I think, in like 45 days. We literally made it back in like 45 days. So, but on the high end, our 3-bedroom, 3-bathroom house in Noonan, it's 3 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, about 1,700 square feet. So yeah, it costed us a little bit more. We probably spent about $8,500 on that investment. But that's also, we're working with a private homeowner, so they wanted first and last month's rent. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like they wanted all.
Yeah,
exactly. So it depends on, but you can, the thing I like about private homeowners is you can kind of negotiate those things. You can negotiate deposits, you can negotiate all type of stuff. And that's why I love to work with, other homeowners who are not opposed to this model.
Yeah.
But startup costs.
I mean, like how long would you say the overall process was? I know you mentioned, I think 45 days, but did everything, was the whole entire thing fit into that 45 days, or was it longer or shorter?
When you say the process of
like when you first got started, like even way back when, I'm not even talking recently, but like when you first decided, all right, this is what we're going to do. And obviously not, until now, but like getting your first Airbnb listed, having someone rent it out and you closing the quote unquote deal.
Good. These are you. I'm gonna make sure I tell everybody to watch your episodes, because you have some really good questions.
I appreciate it. I think we're all good at something.
This is great. Yeah. This is great. So overall process. Okay. This is perspective. I love to give perspective in this industry.
Please do.
So we got the apartment in Los Angeles through I found that building because I cleaned a couple units in that building. Okay. So I knew okay, we can get an Airbnb here. And this was before we were doing it the correct way. Okay. So let's perspective. We're gonna put it out there for perspective.
Make sure we know. Yeah.
Yes. So we signed that lease January of 2020. Okay. Yes, last year during the pandemic, we signed that lease. We got our first long-term guest checked in September 6th. Okay. We had the listing live, I think, the beginning of August. And so we were just waiting. And when I say we got it live, we got like maybe 7 inquiries because we could only, in Los Angeles, you can only list that unit for 30 days or more. So I was really surprised. We had a lot of inquiries for people that needed long-term stays. So this guy, he locked in, they checked in like the first, right after Labor Day or right before one of those Labor Days, something like that. And that was, that was our very first one. It took us from the time we invested all the money in July, what's that, a month and a half, okay? Yeah. So then fast forward, now I'm starting to learn about, arbitrage for real and learn about connecting with private homeowners and learn about, okay, I can actually get permission to do this. So then we sought out to find homeowners who, would say yes to this. So we relocated to Georgia. That was in our plans. Once we got somebody in that unit, we were going to Georgia. So we relocated to Georgia. I started to build up a few cleaning clientele in Georgia for, because that was part of our plans as well. Mm-hmm. So February came and we were starting to become parts of groups on Facebook, Airbnb groups on Facebook for Atlanta. I was cleaning and managing for, I think, 3 hosts at the time. 2 of them had multiple units. So we had been there within a month or so. And I had already had about 10 different Airbnbs on our roster for management and cleaning already. So then we just started networking, communicating with people within, I say like from September to February was when we got connected with the homeowner. So September to February, what's that? October, November, December, January, February. Yeah. So 5 months. Mm-hmm. 5 months. Okay. So then we got that unit up. We signed the lease on that in February. We got the keys March 1st. Okay. Mm-hmm. That's of this year. Got the keys March 1st. So then in networking and just more, this one thing about this business too, once you start to post that you're doing this and people see your numbers, they see what you're doing, they want to connect with you. So we ended up taking on 3 more apartment listings in Atlanta the next month. So the house was up and taking guests in 14 days. Okay. We signed that lease March 1st. Now we've created a system. We've done our research. We know we're doing a little bit more now. So from the 1st to the 14th of March, we got that listing up. It was booked out March, April. That house has been booked for the whole year.
Took off? Okay? Yeah.
Yes, it took off. So then we got the apartments. We took those on as management partnerships. And we also partner with people like they invest some, we invest some, we come in, mm-hmm. we host the listings, all these things. So we took on 3 units like that in April, the following month. Okay. 2 of them we staged at the same time. So we did not acquire this place until I found the unit in the beginning of July, came and saw the unit the second week of July, and we signed the lease on July 17th. Okay. We already knew we weren't getting the keys until September 1st. So we had from July 17th to September 1st to order everything, get everything set up, we had it all in the storage. Everything was pretty much set up. So September 1st came, we had our first guest here, September 5th, downstairs. And now exactly. Upstairs, what's today? Today is September 21st. So the downstairs has been moving and grooving. We started staging this upstairs unit last week. We're pretty much all done. We got a guest checking in here on Friday. So yeah.
It's all a process. Sometimes it takes time, but you just got to remember that it is a process. So again, congratulations, salute on that.
Thanks.
But so let's say someone was looking to invest into Airbnb, right? To take it from the top, right? If I were someone that wanted to start my own Airbnb investing business, right? Let's start from the top. Let's do a walkthrough of what they would have to do. All right. First step, watch this episode. Second one, what should they do after that? What will be the first thing?
My opinion, you should connect with a coach or a mentor, a vetted coach or mentor, because then you don't have to spend hours and hours and hours on YouTube and hours and hours. Because literally, if you don't get a coach or mentor, you're going to be on YouTube University for about a month to really fully understand. Exactly. But if you have the time to do that, then educate yourself. That's step 2. That's it. So whether you get a coach a teacher or you educate yourself on your own. But step 2 would be educate yourself first. Learn everything you can about arbitrage, about Airbnb, about short-term renting before you start spending money. Okay. Once you educate yourself, then it's time to locate a property. Okay. My advice would be to figure out if you want to have a local unit to where you live, or if you want to branch out to bigger cities, other cities. And that's dependent upon the person. Okay. If you have responsibilities at home or kids or things of that, it might be a little harder to have a unit that you have to stage for about a few days and go fly and do all this stuff to get it set up, right? But that step 3 would be locate a property. So go ahead.
Where would they locate it? Like, is there a website or an app, or were they just?
So there's no website or app that you could use to actually locate a property, but there are different websites out there that you can use to figure out if a location would be potentially profitable. So we use a website called airdna.co. I would recommend either doing a tutorial on AirDNA, or your coach or mentor will show you. Like, I go through using AirDNA with those who, are a part of my mentorship program, right? I show them how to use it. We actually get on Zoom like this, and I share my screen and I show them how they should be using that site. There's other ones out there. AirDNA is the one that I like to use. I'm trying out another one now, but I don't want to talk about it until I know it's good. So for now, I know that AirDNA is, and this is all potential. It's just potential. You can also just get on Airbnb and type in a city and type in a weekend stay and see what the numbers are looking like, see how many Airbnbs are available, see what those calendars are looking like. You can just get on Airbnb. You can also, when you travel, book an Airbnb, and kind of see how competitive it is, because in certain cities, it's hard to book Airbnbs. Like, the main reason we came to Milwaukee was because every time we would visit, we were trying to book Airbnbs. There weren't a lot available. We're like, okay, they need more Airbnbs available in Milwaukee, right? So 3rd, locate the property. Then 4th.
Wait, one final question on the 3rd one. But so to me, that sounds like ways to locate the city. What about is there the city? Yes, but is there any way or specific way in terms of finding an actual house itself? Right. So let's just say I don't know, Houston. Okay, I got that. I like the city Houston, right? But is there anything that would let me know how to find an actual crib down there?
Yes. So the same process you would use when you're looking for a rental or purchase for yourself, it's the same process. Okay. So, there's so many different platforms out there. Everybody's process when it comes to that, as far as teachers, is going to be different. Right. I'm big on utilizing the most, I'm big on utilizing the most popular platforms. Because those are the ones that the landlords are posting on the most. So we know there's Zillow, there's apartments.com, there's a Facebook marketplace, there is Craigslist. So, I literally, all of the private owners we work with, we found them on those sites. You just have to be, and that's why I said in the beginning with the consistency, you gotta be consistent, because you're competing with regular tenants that are looking for places to live as well. So you have to be able to pitch your business and not be afraid to call, and not be afraid to, really send a good pitch via email, or, leave a good voicemail or send a good text message, right? And so verbiage is everything. You have to learn how to create a good pitch, but yeah.
To be honest, I think, is that step 4 right there, the pitch? Like, after you find it, is it okay? So let's talk to me about step 4.
So the pitch is, I guess, to make it a simple conversation here. I mix my words up. To make it as simple as possible. Yeah. You want to make it a conversation. You want to translate, I guess, verbiage that you can talk. Like, when I'm having a conversation with you, The same things I would say to you if I'm going to pitch my business. Hey, my name is Chelsea with JCD Enterprises. I was calling today because I saw your property online, and we're actually in the area. We're looking for property similar to yours. I'm really interested in talking to you about our business model, and see if it's something that you would be interested in. In entertaining and interested in allowing in your space. And they say, hey, it's not for business, or, sure, whatever that. And this is why I like to send emails first, because I want to, instead of me just cold calling you, it's like, how do I tell you that I am, trying to use your house for Airbnb, right?
Yeah.
I like to send the emails to let them know we provide, a temporary housing option, fully furnished. We make sure we screen our clientele. We don't allow, local guests or local clients.
I
I
got
don't
you.
use the word guest, but just different verbiage that I teach. And my, I guess students, for better words, as well. It's just about what you say and how you say it, and allowing those homeowners, those property managers, to be able to trust you with your verbiage. It's like, okay, this may be something that I'm interested in entertaining.
Yeah. So, okay, so let's say now, you've had a conversation with the homeowners and the property managers, and you've come to an agreement, right? Whether, the prices, I think, you kind of go back and forth on negotiations. But now you have a property, right? You have your own Airbnb. You're now, I guess, maybe technically a host. Do you now download the Airbnb app? Do you send in like an application? How do you target and market towards clients?
Yes. So let's back up, because
Okay.
once you have had that conversation with the landlord and they say to you, okay, this is something I'm interested in, you then want to go see the property, make sure that it is, legit, make sure it looks like the pictures. And then it's time for you to actually sign a lease. And this is when it's important that your paperwork is up to par. Okay. So that's why I always say having a good coach or mentor is important, because if you've never signed a lease for a short-term rental, you're not going to know what should be in that paperwork. And that's a lot of people's first Airbnb units is when they make the most mistakes. We did it, it happens. So that's why I'm out here trying to work with people so that they don't make the mistakes we did. It cost us money. It was not fun, but once you get that lease signed, the paperwork is, tight, airtight, everything is good. Then it's time for you to prepare for the day you get your keys. Okay. So let's say I sign my lease on, like, for example, we signed our lease on July 17th. We knew we were getting the key September 1st. So now it's time to set up your Airbnb hosting account. Most of us already have a Airbnb consumer account. All you got to do is create a hosting profile. They've actually done it now. I just created a listing a couple week ago or so, and it's way different than what it was when we first started doing this. They actually like walk you through step by step how to create the listing. So it's actually kind of cool, and they make it like kind of beginner friendly.
Okay.
So all you got to do is just log into your Airbnb account that you already have. There'll be a little tab that says switch to hosting, or just go to airbnb.com and click become a host. And it's going to walk you through everything you need to, the description of the place, the address of the place, the house name, just different things that you want to, have as part of your listing. If you don't have a coach or anything, go on YouTube and just type in creating an Airbnb hosting account, and I'm sure something will come up that will help you. But then from there, I recommend, if you do have a luxury or an updated unit, get some professional pictures taken. If you don't have an updated unit, if it's more, older or historic, don't oversell the unit. Don't get, professional, super edited pictures taken for that unit, because you may get some unhappy guests if you oversell it, right?
Yeah.
But then, it's just time for you to prepare for your first guest. So now it's time for you to go to the stores or get online. It's time for you, if you do have places to store your furniture and things that you need to put in the unit to furnish, start purchasing stuff, get it stored up until it's time for you to get those keys. That's one thing. I think that's honestly the best part for me is the, furnishing, the staging, going to the store with those checklists. My spouse always talks about me because I always have my little clipboard with my checklist. I'm checking stuff off, but it's important to be organized through that time as well. So that's the next step, preparing for that guest. And then at that point, once you get those keys, I always recommend having a goal timeline. So if you want to be fully set up, staged, furnished, in 7 days from when, or 5 days or 3 days from when you get your keys, then set that up and in your mind, write it down, do everything you need to do after you sign that lease to when you get those keys, so that you can get in there, get somebody in there to put all your furniture together on TaskRabbit, on Handy, all your TVs mounted, everything. You can get it done in a couple of days if you hire people, or if you have a team of people ready to get everything set up once you get the keys. But it's all about proper planning. Once you get that yes and you have that lease signed, you just got to plan everything out so that you can get that unit, furnished and get guests in there as soon as possible.
Okay. And now the guests have been in there, and let's say they obviously have a good time, and now their stay is over. And so the last part, again, correct me if I'm either missing something or I jumped ahead. The payment, how does that overall work? Is that like a once a month kind of thing? Is there an app you got to download, or what?
Everything's done right through the Airbnb app. Obviously, if you are now, I'll answer the question first. You will set up your account, and they will give you the option of a few different payment methods. You can connect the PayPal account. You can connect a bank account. There's another option. I can't think of what it is right now, but either of those options are pretty safe options. And if you do connect the PayPal account, you do get your payouts the next day after check-in. So like we had a guest check in downstairs today. So tomorrow I'll be getting a payout for that guest. And the same thing on Thursday when the guest checks in. And then Friday, there's somebody checking in up here. So I'll get a payout Friday for downstairs, and then Saturday.
Run it up.
So it's
run it up.
Run
it up. Run it up. Run it up.
Coming in every other day.
Run
So
it
that's,
run it up. But
exactly.
you know though, in that example, it sounds as if Airbnb investing is passive income. But would you consider it? Yeah. Would you consider it truly passive?
I do. And the reason that I call it passive income is because of this. Most people aren't like me. I am a cleaning professional by trade. I've been doing this for 6 years, almost 7 years now. So, and we have decided to be very involved with our business because we enjoy it, right? And we also are already entrepreneurs. We've been self-employed entrepreneurs for years. So we have the free time to be able to spend 3 days at the unit getting everything put together ourselves so we can save money, right? And clean the units ourselves or walk the cleaners through everything ourselves. But right now, as we're sitting here, we have a guest in Noonan that checked in, and we haven't been in Noonan in 2 months. We've had guests in and out of there. So, it is passive in that regard, because if you are going to have units that are set up in different states, you do have to have a system and a team in place so that unit can run without you. So we have our security systems up, we have our smart locks on our doors. Everything can be, controlled from our phones. Our cleaners, we have a couple different cleaning teams that work with that house because, it's a pretty involved listing. But we have them, I work very closely with them. They're scheduled. We left Georgia in August, and we're actually going for a day on Thursday just because I just want to see the play. I'm like, I haven't been there. I just want to see it. I have attachment issues.
Yeah, why not?
So like I want to.
Yeah, I want to go.
And we're gonna stock up on some supplies and stuff so that we don't plan on going back until Thanksgiving. So that everything is all good there. But it's like, in a sense, it is passive. If you want it to be passive, you can set it up to be passive. The money is made in Noonan, and we haven't touched that. We haven't touched that unit in a couple months.
That's the name of the game. So again, salute to you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
But you're welcome. But the final question that I have for you, Chelsea, it's a question that I ask everyone that's been on Define Legacy. And that question is, how do you want to be remembered?
I want to be remembered as the person who I think I am, someone who is genuine. I truly care about the success of others. So much that I'm willing to.
Yeah, this is always the toughest question. This is always the toughest question for people. It's a little,
I want to. Yeah, I guess for better words, I want to be remembered as someone who, really created something that even, because you have some businesses, you have some ideas that only certain people could see themselves doing, right? Like certain business entities, certain things. Like I want to create, obviously I didn't create short-term renting, I didn't create Airbnb, but the way that we run our company and the way that, the audience that I am, that I attract, and the people that are attracted to me, I want to create something for them that they all could see themselves doing. I want to be so authentic and so true and real that the most regular and average person could say, okay, I'm working this job, I can save my money for 6 months and go and invest into a short-term rental unit that can bring me in extra income every month. So now I'm not having to work 72 hours instead of the 40 hours that I'm already required to work. Like, do you get what I'm saying? Like that,
Yeah.
if I think about, what is important for our community, and, I don't really care about people remembering me for, material things or how much money I made, but I really want to be able to make an impact on my community. And so if I had to think about, just making an impact, that I want to be remembered for making an impact, to those who really need it and those who appreciate it and those who really want to work for it and see the benefit in just, I guess, financial literacy and freedom across the board. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And I mean, obviously you have, I believe your course, your webinar, your consultation, and everything like that. So that's why I wanted to kind of take note of that, because, once someone, reaches a certain level in their business, they could just begin to only focus on themselves. But you made the decision to truly help those around you, which is something that should definitely be acknowledged. So if you could, going off that, right, your course and stuff, please feel free to right now drop all your social media, anything that you might have coming up, whether it be your consultation service, again, courses, social, any and everything. Let people know where they can find you.
Yes. Okay. My Instagram handle is Chelsea Marie Loves You. Please follow. That is my main page. That page is linked to all of the business pages. It has my link tree with all of the resources that JCD Academy provides in my bio. I do want to point out there is a webinar, a live webinar that is coming up actually on this coming Thursday, the 23rd. It's at 6:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. And you can actually click the link tree in my Instagram bio to sign up. I think I have 10 or 9 seats remaining for that. I do also have an online curriculum, which is pre-recorded, lifetime access. I do make updates to it. I do update the information based on the updates in the industry. So anybody that signs up for that, they have lifetime access to it. Their login is always going to be valid. So if you're someone who likes to do like the online school thing, that will be great for you. And then lastly, I have a Airbnb for beginners with JCD Enterprises. That is the Facebook group. Okay. I post about it on my Instagram a lot. For the Facebook group, there's about 1,100 people in the group. It's growing. Some days I look and I have all these requests to join the group and I'm like, what is going on? But it's growing, and there's starting to be a lot more people that are working with me that are posting their success stories in there as well. So make sure you join that group. And lastly, if you are local to Milwaukee, Chicago, anywhere close driving vicinity, October 23rd and 24th, I will be actually having my next in-person workshop and seminar. I'm actually doing a 2-day event weekend this time. Last time I had 1 day and it went fantastic. I had 16 people that showed up. It was an amazing time. I'm already working with a few of the individuals that came on their first unit. This time we're doing a networking mixer for the first night. I have a few other Airbnb Superhosts that are going to be joining me for that mixer. And then I'm doing the actual seminar on Sunday, the 24th. So more details will be coming out about that. The tickets will be going on for that, going on sale for that here in the next few days. But yes, this was amazing. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. Gems were dropped on this lovely episode. And do you have any final words that you want to leave the people with at all? It could be related to, Airbnb or whatever.
I would just like to tell anybody that is listening to this, Whatever goal you have set for yourself, do not let anything, anybody, anyone detour you from that goal. A lot of times when people don't see your vision, they don't understand your vision, they will try to discourage you from your vision. It has happened to me many of times, but if I allowed others to discourage me from what it was I truly wanted to do, I would not be where I am today. So make sure you keep that tunnel vision, stay focused, and you will accomplish everything you have sought out to accomplish.
Yes, yes, yes. Believe it, believe it. Again, thank you, Chelsea. Again, Airbnb Superhost, owner of JCD Academy. We definitely appreciate you. All right. So for Define Legacy, again, make sure, obviously you all subscribe wherever you get your podcast, YouTube, Apple, follow on Instagram, Define Legacy on Instagram, Theus Elijah on Instagram. Appreciate y'all for listening. Define Legacy. Yeah.